Okay, what we're going to be looking at in this tutorial is how to replace a sky in Photoshop CC. We're also going to be using Lightroom to start with, and a plugin to Photoshop called the Easy Panel 2. It's a free plugin that will help you create a luminosity mask. Okay, so if you can go ahead and download that, there's a link in the description below, and install it into Photoshop, and we can get on. So here we are in Lightroom. This is our image that we're going to place the sky on. It's actually 3 images which I bracketed. If you look at the EXIF, it's f8 ISO 200 with a fast shutter speed 16mm. Okay, first thing I'm going to do is merge them as a HDR. So select the 3. If you don't know how to do that, left click with the mouse, hold the shift key down, go across, left click with the mouse, and it fills all in between. Right click, photo merge, HDR. Okay, make sure these 2 buttons are selected. Because it's handheld, you want to align the images and go ahead. You don't want any deghosting because there's no people moving around or anything. Just go ahead and merge. Okay, so here's our merged file. It contains all of the tonal information of all those 3 files, so we can push up the shadows without any noise, and we can drop our highlights without having to worry about it being burnt out, blown out rather. Okay, so develop. Going to do a basic editing on this. I'm going to click on my preset. I've only got 1 preset. The only difference is one's sharp and one isn't. We don't want to sharpen at this stage because this is going to be a composite effectively, and you should always sharpen a composite after all the changes have been done. And I personally prefer to sharpen in Photoshop anyway. Okay, so develop, and we've got our base, my settings here. I'm gonna push the shadows up a touch. I think the white balance looks okay. And put a bit of texture in, take a bit of dehaze off, and perhaps a bit of contrast off as well. And that's pretty much it. The only other thing I want to do, I'll just point out that one of the settings in my preset is lens corrections. Always set that. And transform, auto, bang, nice straight edges, and that's it. That's our image edited. The only thing with this, so it's not a lot of contrast in the sky in the foreground to create our mask. So I'm going to make a copy of this. So right click, and then we go create virtual copy, and then we can edit this. Basic. What I'm going to do here, because this is HDR, I've got a lot to play with here. So I'm going to whack the highlights right up. This brightens the sky. Drop the shadows right down. I'm going to push the whites up and the blacks down, and what that's really left me with, I could put a bit of contrast in now, yeah, and what this left me with is this bit here. And one of the ways to bring that down darker is to go luminance and drop the yellow channel and the orange channel, and I think there's some red in there as well, so we'll take that down as well. Okay, back into library, grid view, and there's 3 images here which we're going to send across to Photoshop. So there's our sky, which is a PSD file, the background image, and the image we're going to be using to create our mask. So right click, edit in, open as laser in Photoshop. You notice these are now DNG files, which is Adobe's compressed RAW file. It creates that. That was actually created when we did the HDR in Lightroom. It's the default setting. Okay, before we do anything, I want to put this sky in the right place, okay? And what I mean by that is, if you look down at the bottom of the sky, the clouds are much more compressed because it's nearer the horizon, and we want that to be where the horizon should be. So I'm going to push that up to the middle, and that'll look a bit more natural. Okay, next thing we're going to do, we can hide that layer, and we can hide this one as well, and we're only interested in this one, so we select it, and this is the one we're going to use to create our mask. So you'll find your easy panel, window, extensions, easy panel 2, and there you go, and that's it. We are going to use this top one here, which is 16-bit bright luminosity mask, making sure this layer is selected. Click on that, and it's creating 6 different masks that we can choose between. And if we use these buttons here, we can actually toggle between them. So that's one. That's okay, but there's too much bright area here. I think we'll go right to the other end to 6, and that's a lot better. But we need to get rid of these white areas here, and we could do that by actually editing the mask. So with a brush, black brush, just paint that out. Okay, now we make selection. So it's selected that area. You can see the marching ants on there. Let's get rid of those marching ants. Press Ctrl H. It gets rid of the ants, but doesn't get rid of the actual selection. Now let's turn these layers back on. In fact, turn that layer back on. Select the sky and click Apply Mask. And if we look at that, there we go. There's our sky put into that mask. Let's turn on the background, and that's it. Finished. All we need to do is just crop this edge out, as I mentioned. Do it that way. In fact, no, we won't. We won't crop. We will go Control T and expand it in. Oh, sorry, no, we won't. We will crop. It's only selected that area. What I'd have to do is to do that. Cancel that. Is flatten image. Now I could do that. Control T. Right click. In fact, we don't need to do that. Just Control T. Expand it out slightly. That means I don't have to crop. And it also keeps the resolution when you do that. And finally, let's sharpen it, and we will sharpen for the web. So that's reduced the resolution. It's done 2048 pixels, which is apparently ideal for social media, etc. And that's sharpened that nicely. If we take a look at this, you can see there's no fringing. There's a little bit. You can take that out, and you can see the clouds actually through that gap there. And that's it. Thank you.